Hello and welcome to the Great Writer Share. And today we have a bit of an extra special bonus mini episode for you. And I'm here with a special guest. Would you like to say hello?
Hey, how you doing, Daniel?
Hey, I'm very well, thank you. So I'm here today with J Thorn. People should know Jay from this podcast. He was, off the top of my head, if I remember this right, I'm going to be well impressed. But I'm going to say number 7 of the Great Writer Share podcast, episode number 7.
You might be right, yeah.
Yeah, and you also appeared obviously recently in episode 50, which was the whole montage of amazing guests. So thank you for coming on and doing that. And for people who follow the other podcasts I do, you also were recently Daniel Wilcox on the Next Level Author podcast. So you're kind of everywhere at the minute.
I wasn't quite Daniel Wilcox, but I did my best.
No, but I am checking up on that 9-book romance series that you'd be So yeah, we're a bit out of the traditional format today, but I did want to get Jay on because Jay has recently launched a non-fiction initiative that I just wanted to bring to you guys, have a bit of a discussion. We briefly mentioned it on the podcast before. Myself, Sasha Black, and a few others are involved. But Jay, I didn't know if you wanted to give a little overview on what you're currently working on and how it's looking.
Yeah, it's a big experiment, so we're not really sure how it's going to work. But those of listeners who've been around the self-publishing industry for a while probably know the name Steve Scott. And Steve Scott did really well, continues to do well. And what he did is he published very short, specific nonfiction titles around time management, productivity, that kind of stuff. And it was great because it allowed people to get what they wanted in nice kind of short bite-sized pieces. And so I kind of modeled that approach with this new series called 9 Things Career Authors Don't Do. And we branded that to the podcast along with Zach Bohannon. And I tapped some wonderful friends of mine, yourself included, to write little specific titles that are their own passion and kind of publish those all together and see what happens.
So 9 Things a Career Author Doesn't Do. How does that look in terms of a brand new reader who's looking at potentially wanting to learn a bit more about a particular side of the craft and they come to this series? Where do they start? How do they dive into the particular topics?
Yeah, there's an introductory title that is bargain priced, and that kind of sets the tone and sets up the rest of the series. And then the other titles can be read in any order at any time. The idea, I'm a big fan of just-in-time learning. And I think a lot of times we get books or courses or resources and we get overwhelmed because we feel like, wow, there's so much we have to do. But in reality, there's only one thing you can do at a time. And then you move on to the next thing. And so if you get, you're drinking from the fire hose and you get 15 things that you feel like you have to do, but really number 1 is the only one you need right then. So the idea with the 9 Things series is, maybe you're not considering podcasting yet, but when you're ready, there'll be one there for it. Maybe you're not worried about marketing yet because you're working on your first draft. Well, when you get there, there'll be one ready. So it's this idea of just-in-time learning, delivering exactly what people want and when they need it.
It's an interesting way to approach it because I'm definitely a just-in-time learner as well. And as I'm currently working on my next nonfiction, which is all about productivity, I'm very, very hyper aware that as I'm writing specific sections, I almost want them to be self-encapsulated because I know that you can't just hand someone this manual of everything you need to do to fix a car, to soup up a car, and they're going to just take it all in. You have to work on each component one at a time. How did you approach picking the particular topics? Are there certain ones that just jumped out at you as a starting point for this series?
Yeah, we started out, Zach and I were brainstorming topics and we chose ones that we were going to write together. I chose a few I was going to write by myself. And originally I wasn't planning on asking anyone else. It was Zach and I were going to do it. And then he kind of got busy with some other projects and realized he wasn't going to be able to do too many more. And I didn't want them to be all me because I have my experience and my perspective, but it's only one. So I thought, well, why not ask friends and people I know and ask them, what is your specific passion or what element of being a writer or publisher is near and dear to your heart? And let people run with that. And I think I think collectively it makes for a stronger series because it's not me trying to cover all the bases. It's me covering what I know well and then asking other experts to share what they know as well.
And what are your expectations for the series as they go on?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean,
the Jake Thorn experiment.
Yeah, I hope they sell. I mean, that's what every author hopes whenever they publish a book, fiction or nonfiction. I think ideally what I'd like to see is, I would like to see how one title can affect the rest of the series. And they're non-linear, which I think is an interesting take. So it's not like in a fiction series where you have to start at book one and you're driving the reader through in a sequence, where this is more open-ended. So I'm really curious to see too, like, part of the experiment is to see which of these titles sells. And the reason I'm interested in that is because that could be the seed for a bigger book project. You know, if Exercise, for example, sells really well, maybe that tells me, wow, maybe there's a full book for authors on exercise in the future. So it's kind of a way of crowdsourcing the demand and using specific data points, sales, to measure it.
No, I definitely love this sort of novel approach to creating a series. And when I was creating my book, which obviously isn't released yet within the series, I did my book on marketing. And one of the things that I found as the first challenge was, obviously it's 9 things a career author doesn't do. So you then have to narrow down this broad spectrum of what you know within that topic into 9 of what you believe are going to be the most worthwhile chunks for people to digest. And I think that's a really interesting take, particularly when you have all these different authors who have their own experiences, giving you a slight insight into some of the biggest things that have affected them. Has there been anything that you've seen where you thought an idea might be within a book, like a topic might be within, say, finance, or I'll use mine as an example, marketing, and wasn't? Was there anything that sort of surprised you that wasn't included in them?
I think, yes, I think so. Especially some of the ones that I don't really have any firsthand experience with. Like, you know, Janet Kiddo wrote a book about a creative life on the road, and her husband lived in an RV for a year. And so, you know, that's not an experience I have. And so every essay in there was eye-opening and surprising to me. I think it's also comforting to see some of the overlap that occurs. So there are some essays in certain books, and without any sort of coordination or cooperation, the ideas in that essay pop up somewhere else. And I think it's reaffirming as an author, as a career author, to say, oh yeah, you know, I'm not the only one who feels this way, or I'm not the only one that's going through this experience, because, you know, I'm seeing it over here and over here and over here.
How have you found the act of essentially becoming the publisher behind the series, as well as one of the driving creative forces? Because obviously you've got your hands in every bit of the process that's going on. You're speaking to the authors, you're sorting the covers, you're marketing. How have you found all that process?
Yeah, word of caution to you, my friend.
You see why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. It's good. Like, I'm not complaining, but you know, it's, at first I just thought, oh yeah, it's just co-writing, but it's not. It's publishing, and I think that's different. You know, just if you take just the email, for example, right? Like, there are communications between myself and the editor, communications between myself and the cover designer, and then communications between me and those people and the authors of the titles. So just a communication thread for 9 books coming out of the gate, with 2 to 3 more closely behind it, was a lot more than I bargained for. And you know, and we're using Slack for the authors, so that helps avoid a lot of multiple messaging and saying the same things multiple times. But yeah, it's a lot more. And you know, like, even before they went to the editor, I would do revisions on them. So you know, that was something that I probably didn't think hard, you know, enough about. Is like, oh yeah, I have to do a revision, and then it's got to go to the editor. So yeah, there's a lot more work than I anticipated, and I haven't even touched like the advertising piece yet, right? So like, you know, I have a company, I have bookads.co who's doing the Amazon ads and some BookBub ads, but again, I got to coordinate with them, you know, and they're giving me communications, and I'm checking the dashboard, and so yeah, it's a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
Although not many people can say they had 9 books come out in a single day.
Yeah.
Do you have plans on box setting them? Do you have plans on bringing certain ones together, or at the minute is it a case of put them all out there, see how they do, and sort of work out your strategy from there?
Yeah, I think it really is still an experiment. I asked Brian at Book Ads about it and got his take, and he thought, like, he's run thousands of Amazon ads, and so he has a great perspective on it. And I asked him, I'm like, I'm going to have 9 titles. What should I do? Should I do like one a month for 9 months? Should I do all 9 on one day? Should I do in batches? And his recommendation was do like half of what you have on one day and then half of what you have about a month later. And so that was the approach. It was 5 titles in August. It'll be 4 titles in September and at least 2 in October. And related to that, decided not to do any audio, no paperback yet. And they're all in KDP Select because, you know, nine books wide, do the math, right? That's 36 different uploads platforms I'd have to deal with. So for right now, I'm keeping it as simple and as streamlined as possible and then see what happens. And one of the things that I definitely talked to Brian about was creating bundles, whether that's a bundle for all of them, bundles of 3 or 4. There'll be a lot of options because they're so modular. I mean, even within the titles, you could read them in any order. They're 9 essays essentially, and they cover different topics, but they don't necessarily have to be read in chronological order. So the whole thing is meant to be very flexible, and we'll see what happens.
No, I do like the strategy behind it. And obviously in terms of the fiction and the serial that I'm writing, I like those sort of bite-sized chunks of just testing the market and seeing where it's going and giving yourself almost like an exit strategy just in case it doesn't quite go where you want to.
Right.
But I mean, what would you say to someone that's potentially looking at what you're doing and thinking, I'd love to give that a go myself with sort of maybe a different topic? What would your advice for them at this point after getting to where you are now?
I think my advice would be to make sure you have a way to test your ideas. And, you know, I'm cutting back, but I have a lot of podcasts. I've been on a lot of podcasts and a lot of the topics that are covered in the 9 Things series are things that have come up on the podcast. And so whether it's anecdotally or even more intentionally, I'm able to go back and look at comments and remember conversations I had with people and talk about, you know, which podcast episode topics really resonated and which ones didn't. And I can look at the downloads and look at the numbers and kind of get a sense of that. And I think that's really helpful. And it doesn't have to be a podcast, but I think if there's some way that you could test the ideas ahead of time to make sure you're not writing something that nobody wants, because that's very easy to do. I've done that myself so many times as an author and an entrepreneur. We get busy building stuff and we forget to ask if anyone wants it. I think that's the biggest advice I would give is like have some way of testing it. And that could be, there's an infinite number of ways of doing that, but getting some sort of feedback before you commit and doing your MVP, do your minimally viable product and just put out the smallest product you can and test it and make sure it's something people want.
Beautiful. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we wrap up? Do you want to shoot over some links as where people can find this series?
I think the book link or link is the best one to use for the whole series. It's getbook.at and it's /9 Things series. I think I should probably have that, Andy.
We'll pop it in the show notes.
For the show notes. Yeah. But if you just go on Amazon and do a search for 9 Things Career Authors Don't Do, you should be able to get to them all.
Beautiful. And I think we'll probably see a few more of these mini episodes. I quite like just having the little just peek behind the curtain as to what current authors are up to. So thanks for being the first of potentially many, Jay. And it's always good to chat to you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me on, Daniel.
Excellent. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you soon.